Welcome to Uncomplicate by Freshworks, where we answer one question every day with one expert. Today I have Wes Bush, who is the founder of Product-Led Institute, and he's helped a ton of SaaS companies, or rather a lot of companies, having a product-led growth, as the name of his institute suggests. So welcome to Uncomplicate, Wes.
Thanks for having me. Let's dive in.
Okay, so today's question is something that a lot of people have in mind. A lot of people struggle with. The first touch point of a customer, right, is onboarding, customer onboarding. But there's a lot of theories out there. But being the founder of Product-Led Summit, I'm sure you have a framework that our audience could benefit from. So what is it?
Definitely. So whenever it comes to improving onboarding for any company, there is a certain amount of time you have to make or break that relationship. So in all the companies I've helped, it really comes down to that first 5 minutes. And in that first 5 minutes, you can lose anywhere from 40 to 60% of everyone who signs up for your product. So in that first 5 minutes, you have to optimize that experience. And so what I really recommend, I'll share my screen right now, but it's called the bowling alley framework. And so what's the beauty of this framework is that there's only 3 things you really need to do to optimize your onboarding. So the first thing, if you want to significantly improve that first 5 minutes of your onboarding experience, you need a straight line. And what I mean by that is you really need to boil down, like, what are those minimum amount of steps that someone has to do to really strike out and get that first value. Because if you can help them strike out in that first experience, their chances of actually coming back to your product skyrocket. Fail to do so, they go in the gutter. And it's going to be a lot harder for them to get back onto that straight line and experience value in your product. So if you're really trying to make this as actionable as possible, go through your onboarding experience now and just go through and find out, like, what are those steps that we actually have to have? What are those form fields that we actually need to have? Everything else, let's get rid of it. And so once you have that, you can move on to your product bumper. And so product bumpers are really important because it's what you do in the product. And most people, you think about bowling, for instance, you can go bowling, and if it's your first time, you're probably going to get in the gutter, almost guaranteed. And so if you want a little hack or cheat, put up a bumper. And you'll be surprised. It just doesn't go in the actual gutter. And so the same concept really applies when it comes to your onboarding. If people are going into your product for the first time, they're not going to know what to do. So can we show them? Can we guide them? Whether it's using a tool like AppUse or Pendo or WalkMe, like, you can really strategically get people to the point in the product where they need to be so that they can actually experience value. Now, a product bumper only goes so far. There is going to be times where that person just had to grab a coffee, talk with some coworkers, and they totally forgot about your product. So how do you bring them back? And so that is where the conversational bumper really comes into play, whether it's using your email or SMS to get people and get them back onto that straight line and catch them where they are. There are so many onboarding emails I receive where it's not based on, like, where I am in that user journey. They're just sending me a bunch of, like, oh, here's your standard 14-day expiry email, like, upgrade now. It's not catered to where I am in the journey. And so if I'm already an advanced user using tons of features, give me a different journey and really cater that conversation to where I am so that I actually pay attention to it. So to recap, if you really want to improve your onboarding, you need to start off with building that straight line onboarding experience. Cut out all the unnecessary steps that you can. And then you want to start layering on bumpers so that whenever someone gets off track in the product or they leave the product, we have a strategic way to bring them back so that we can have as many users as possible strike out. So that is the answer. Hopefully it's helpful.
Awesome. I think, what I loved about this was just one thing, the example or the parallel you drew with bowling and creating the aha moment within the first 5 minutes. And what was also revealing for me was, most of your customers drop out nearly 60%. That's a huge number. And I think if someone could just tap into it, their growth could be like 2 or 3-fold than what it is now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us today, Wes. It was an absolute pleasure hosting you. Until I see you next time, this is Praveen signing off.
Perfect. Thanks for having me. Bye.